Now, given that Indy 5, The Dial of Destiny, is now out in theaters and really underperforming at the box office and leading Disney and the board to really begin to go into a phase of panic and worry about where this movie is going financially and exactly what position it's going to put them in with Bob Iger. We do know that Iger and his job is currently at stake based on The Marvels, Wish, and The Haunted Mansion, all big movie releases by this November, and if those don't perform, he is reportedly out over at Disney. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on with Kathleen Kennedy right now. Now, we know that there's a lot of drama happening over at Lucasfilm, not just because of herself, but also because of what's been going on with Skeleton Crew, The Acolyte, and now the latest, Indiana Jones 5. Now, we know one thing about this film is that there is a lot of fans that really dislike this movie. I myself got to see it for free, by the way. I have to say one thing. This is not my Indiana Jones. It's much like how Luke was not my Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi. I felt the same exact way. It was actually quite scary how similar it was. But moving toward what's going on right now in the Hollywood sphere and Kathleen Kennedy and exactly what's going on with that whole blacklisting situation, the story gets even more intense and crazier. We're going to be covering every single element of this right now, so stick around. So with Disney and Lucasfilm now struggling with Indy 5, both Bob Iger and Kathy Kennedy, however, one big development surrounding the blacklisting of Kathleen Kennedy in Hollywood just got even more involved. Now, with the Dial of Destiny box office tumbling, now nearly every Hollywood studio has Kathleen Kennedy blacklisted and restricted from ever getting the chance to work with any studio in Hollywood for the most part. Now, with Warner Brothers as the most recent company that blacklisted Kennedy, as it turns out, she was in the talks with Warner Brothers to either executive produce or flat out produce a Catwoman series for HBO Max that would work hand in hand with the Penguin show. This was Kennedy's last studio to run as a backup plan once she either leaves Lucasfilm or gets fired from there, of course, by Disney. After WB learned about the failure of 3 franchises such as Star Wars, Willow, and now Indiana Jones, of course, they too joined all the other major Hollywood studios to drop all conversations and or future films and or shows for her to get involved in. Kennedy was looking to expand in Hollywood and did not, of course, want to be limited to just Star Wars anymore, and was using her husband Frank Marshall and his various contacts to extend her career. Do you guys notice the irony here of how Kathleen Kennedy pushes this narrative of how, you know, this whole equality thing and how female empowerment is the focus of all these movies, and yet she has to rely on her husband to really kind of just make all these calls and shots? It's kind of quite hilarious that that's the turn of events here, but what's interesting all the more so about this blacklisting subject that we talked about just a couple of days ago, the story just keeps on unraveling further and further, and with WB as one of the last remaining studios that really, you know, took a stance on this and said, yeah, we don't want you involved, we don't want to converse with you anymore, we want nothing to do with you anymore about any kind of future developments, and that's it. So, interestingly enough, even the studios are beginning to wake up that Kathleen Kennedy is literally poison to filmmaking, to Hollywood studios, to major franchises. And what makes it even all the more quite crazy is that she wanted to literally go all in on a Catwoman series, reportedly. Now, not a big surprise there. I can see what she would have done with the Catwoman show. We all know what she would have done, let's be honest here. I don't think we need to explain that further. But looking at Kathy Kennedy here, the fact that she and her husband Frank Marshall have so many contacts, or Frank Marshall, I should say, specifically has so many contacts in the Hollywood bubble, is that now Frank Marshall is really trying to reverse this entire blacklisting as like a big, way to kind of give Kathleen Kennedy this unlimited resource to expand her career, and it's not working. A lot of Hollywood studios know that what she has done to Star Wars, Willow, and Indiana Jones is almost irreversible. The damage is almost permanent, and it's really going to take, by the way, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni a lot, and I mean a lot of manpower to really turn things around. 3 years minimum of consistent, well-made shows is what it's going to take. At minimum, by the way, mind you. Mando 4, Ahsoka, and Ahsoka Season 2 for starters, they really need to prove themselves, but moving on to the next thing here, it gets even more crazy. So, Kennedy has no plans of retiring from the film industry and wants to remain prominent in the role of productions or, of course, producing or executive producing. Conversations were also happening over at Universal for Kennedy to remake another past franchise. However, that franchise remained a big mystery, but was said to be a major one that was well established in pop culture. Universal also blacklisted Kennedy after learning about what happened with Dial of Destiny and not only upsetting fans, but also the box office failure again. As of now, roughly 90% of Hollywood studios have blacklisted her, and they use her as a textbook example of the worst producer in Hollywood as a business, resorting her to focus, of course, on her own production company, Starlight Production. Her time at Disney so far remains intact, however the board is very angry and disgruntled with Kathleen Kennedy. So again, we know that Kathleen Kennedy right now is not only heavily disliked by the fans, but she's also heavily disliked by Hollywood now, because they see what she has done, and they are noticing a pushback by common moviegoers even now. People that aren't necessarily involved with these franchises or know much about Indiana Jones or Star Wars, people are beginning to wake up that somebody like Kathleen Kennedy just brings these franchises to ruin, quite honestly on purpose, and it's 100% intentional. Now, what's interesting about this further is how Frank Marshall is really trying to battle this out. He's really trying to fight this and really trying to reverse this entire blacklisting. Frank Marshall can try all he wants, but it's all up to the Hollywood studios. They want nothing to do with her. They know what she has done, and they now have the power to really take down Disney, to dethrone Disney as like this monopoly. So basically what Universal is doing is that they're trying to create this Nintendo-verse to take down Disney. That's what we've been hearing, basically, is that they want to create their own princesses, to take over the Disney princesses like Princess Peach and Daisy and different stuff like that. They also want to expand. They want a Zelda movie. They want all these different animated Nintendo movies to come out. And that's going to be interesting to see whether or not, Universal and Nintendo as a whole can become perhaps the new Disney, if you will. That should be very interesting. So, anyways, guys, I'm very intrigued to hear, what you all have to say about this blacklisting situation and these conversations that were happening between Kennedy, Universal, and WB that fell apart because of this. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.